Hey, JJ here, and welcome back to the channel. So I did a video earlier this year where I showed some fancy number examples and start notes and things of that nature, and I thought I'd follow up here with this video to just add more layers to it. I've added approximately 7 or 8 additional examples, and I want to go through those with everyone from this sheet of paper that I created. I also have some bills here that I have exact matches for, and then others where I was pretty close, and so I still want to show you guys what those look like. So in the world of numismatics, with your currencies in particular, there's a really cool thing with the serial number. So as you can see, this example, the green, so this one is D, and then it's 8765434A, and then G, and they should be identical on both sides. And collectors look at the sequence of these numbers and they can create patterns, and there's an actual name for those patterns that are created, which we'll go through here shortly, and that can potentially enhance the value of them well beyond their standard face value. And so this is just something that's really cool to collect. It's something that anyone can do, whether you're getting money from the bank or whether you're getting cash back when you purchase something at the store. You can just simply look at these serial numbers, and if you come across a sequence, and of course, there's some other factors such as the date of the bill. If it's in pretty good condition, then that bill can potentially be worth a lot more. And that's really, really cool. I'll show you guys one that I actually picked off the other day, and I have that bill here, and it's something that, like I said, anyone can do. So let's go ahead and dig right into these examples, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to zoom on in. And example number one, again, for the folks that have seen this sheet earlier in the year, these first 12 or 13 will be the exact same. I may have added a couple examples within the context of each to show, but it's going to be this second page that is going to be new to those folks that have already seen this sheet. And to the newcomers, this will be brand new to you. So, all right, number one is a ladder. And basically within that sequence, that serial number, you're looking to either count up consecutively, or you're looking to count down, which would be a reverse ladder. Okay, so as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or the other way, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you want all of those consecutively in order. So as you can see with this example, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and I don't have the 2 or the 1. This would have been a perfect reverse ladder. This could have been worth hundreds of dollars potentially if I would have sent this in to get it graded. I've seen these perfect ones sell for really, really great money. They're hard to find, and so a lot of the time I see a lot of the almost, and this is a 6-digit almost. So I had 6 of the 8, but that's what that will look like. So you're counting all the way down. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Birthday note. This reflects a birthday or any key milestone date. So with that serial number, in this particular example, you see 12/31/1999. That's one of the formats where you have the month, the day, then the year. And then there's another format slightly to the right where you have the year, month, and then the day. And that's known as a milestone note or a birthday note. And those are really cool to collect too. Okay, let's look at another example here. Number 3, binary notes. So just 2 unique digits. That's it. Your serial number will have 2 digits, and as you can see here, it's just 5s and 6s in this example that I show. Then you have a true binary, which is just going to be your 0s and 1s. Okay, let's look at the next one, a trinary note. The math on the trinary note is about 0.7%. So in other words, you're going to basically come across about 7 of these for every 1,000 bills that you look through theoretically. Okay, and so with the trinary note, let's move on here. Here's an example of that. As you can see, I have 3 unique digits: 0s, 3s, and 6s. Okay, and again, on both sides, those have to be identical serial numbers. If you ever come across a bill that isn't the same on both sides, then that is an error in itself, and that can be worth some good money. Okay, so that's a trinary. I have another example of a trinary note. Here's a $5 bill that I picked off recently in my change. This one's in pretty good condition too, so I thought I'd put it in a plastic holder. So as you can see, 5s, 0s, and 7s. So that's a trinary note, 3 unique digits. Okay, and that's all we're looking for there. Next one is a solid note. So that one digit, the same digit all the way across. So in this example, it's all fives. Okay, so you'll be wanting to look for that. That can sell for great money. I've seen a couple that were graded and they were selling in the low thousands. And so if you ever come across that, hold on to it. Do not spend it. And even if you're off by one, let's say you have all fives and maybe 1 6. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. That's a 7 of a kind, or it could be a 7 in a row. So that's still a great find if you do come across that as well. All right, let's go to the other side of the sheet now. Number 7, a repeater. So the same sequence, as you can see, 1 2 3 4, and then again 1 2 3 4. So the first 4 digits I call the front half. The last 4 digits I call the back half. All right, number 8, super repeater. So you have the first 2 digits that repeat times 4. So in this example, 56, 56 all the way through. And I had an almost for this one. As you can see, I had 0 9s all the way through except for the first 2, 47. So had that been a 0 9, this would have been a super repeater worth excellent money, all right? Next one, we're looking at quad doubles. The first 4 are the same, and then the last 4 are the same, okay? So you can see that example, quad doubles. Next one, I actually have found a few of these. Oh, very, very cool bills. Radar note, so as you can see, it's like RAD, and then it goes the opposite way, AR, back the other way. But in other words, they mirror each other, right? And so if you look at the middle here, you have the 4s that mirror one another, and then the 6s mirror, and then the 7s mirror, and then the 9s to complete it out on each end mirror one another. That's a radar note. Okay. 7 in a row, and we just talked a little bit about that solid note, but if you're one off, then you still have a 7 in a row, or you can have a 7 of a kind. It just depends that second unique digit, wherever that placement is. If they're all in a row, and then that second unique digit is at the end, or it could be that second unique digit is the very first one. So for example, as you can see here, 7 of those are 5, and then it's a 3. You could also have that 3 be the very, very first digit, and then if the rest of those are 5, that's still 7 in a row. Point is, they're touching. Versus a 7 of a kind where that 3 is just kind of thrown in there in the middle and it's kind of broken up, but it's still 7 of a kind, which is great. Now here is one that I found recently. This is a 5 of a kind touching, or 5 in a row, and it's all 7s, and I thought this was a pretty unique bill that I picked up in my pocket change. I got some change back while I was shopping, excuse me, and this was there. And so I've kind of created this habit where I'm just always checking these things. When I get a little bit of money, I just kind of check them, and you never know, you come across one or two that could add some extra money to your pockets. Now this is a 5 of a kind, but it's also a trinary note because it has 3 unique digits of 7s, 9s, and an 8. So this has a couple of things going for it. And really with these, you want a handful of things working for you, not just one thing. One is probably fine, but if you can get a multiple, like if you have, a binary note with bookends, which we'll look at that in a minute, or if you have, a trinary note or something like that with a star note on top of it, you have kind of like a double value there, if you will, because there's multiple things, and the more of those characteristics you have, typically the more desirable it is. Again, making sure the condition is good, and if it's an older bill, those tend to elevate the value as well. Let's look at number 12, a wraparound. So as you can clearly see, starting in the middle there and going to the right, if you have 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it kind of wraps around the other way, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this would be really, this could be a ladder, a wraparound ladder, which would be a really, really good find as well. Okay. All right, so that's the first page. Let's go ahead and let's move on to page number 2, number 13. And this is where I added more content from the video earlier in the year that I created. Okay, so number 13, scrambled or scattered note. Okay, so 8 unique digits consecutive in any order though, and that's the key. They can be in any order, but they are 8 unique digits. All right, so as you can see in this example on the sheet, it's 0 through 7. So those are your 8 unique digits, but they're in any order, and that's why it's considered scrambled or scattered versus that perfect ladder that we had before where everything was kind of left to right but in perfect order. And I actually have one here. As you can see, I have 0 through 7. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is a perfect example of that scattered or scrambled note. These can fetch for some good money. Mine right here, I got a little bit of red going on. I don't know if someone was eating some flaming hot Cheetos or what, but someone got some red on it. I'm still gonna keep this because you never know. All right. All right, the next one here is bookends. So the first and last two digits match in same sequence. So as you can see, first two digits and last two digits in that first example is 8888. Second example, the first two digits, last two digits are 2525. Okay, so here's an example that I have. Very, very easy, simple. 88 and 88 on those ends there. So those are bookends. All right, one of my favorite notes coming up here, the James Bond note. This one's fairly simple. It's just you're looking for that 007, okay? Anywhere in the sequence. So in this example, you see it right smack in the middle, and I have one right smack in the middle, 007, all right? Flipper notes. So these are really cool. I've had a few of these. You're basically, digit creates a serial number. After the digits below create a serial number after you sort of flip it or rotate it, right? And so the only digits that you can really perform this with are going to be your 0s, 1s, 6s, 8s, and 9s, okay? And your 9s, when you flip them, become 6s. Your 6s, when you flip them, they become 9s. Your 8s are pretty much staying the same. Then you have your 0s that are staying the same, and then your 1s are going to be 1s. So here's an example of that. Oops. So as you can see, I have 8, 6, 8, 8, 9, 9, 6, 8, and I'm going to just flip this thing or rotate it, and it still creates a serial number, 8, 9, 6, 6, 8, 8, 9, 8. So that's a flipper note, okay? And those are really cool to find. You can have, like I said, different combinations where you have a trinary, binary, that's also a flipper note. It really, again, just comes down to the digits. So you can only do that again with those 0, 1, 6, and 8. All right, moving on to number 17, the odometer gas pump note. So if you're in your car and you were driving and you see the mileage tick up, in this particular case, you see that 3 at the very end. The next digit would be 4 as you approach that next mile. That's what you're looking at. So it's called an odometer or gas pump note. And as you can see, this side, the very last digit, is parallel with the other numbers. But if I go to the right side, you can kind of see how it's raised. There's some that are far more pronounced than this example, but it definitely caught my attention as I was looking through bills, and I said, oh man, that's an odometer note. I almost flipped it and was going to put it back in circulation, but it caught my eye. So this is definitely a keeper. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Extra ink. Now, extra ink, I tend to see a lot of these, but there are some collectors that put emphasis on this. And again, I think if you have extra ink or over ink with other combinations of fancy serial types, that I think adds to the value. But there's also, so looking at this example, right, you can clearly see where that ink is. It's on that 7. And there's other areas where you can have, so I will call that over ink. There's extra ink areas where there's just green that's in areas where it doesn't belong. And so I've seen that, but this one is just going to be extra ink or over ink. And yeah, you can clearly see that. Again, this is something that I would want to compound with something, another fancy type to really extract that value out of it. Let's go up to the last column here, number 19. Miscut, misalignment. So with these bills, we're checking the space around the edges, we're checking the serial numbers and the seal position. So I came across one of these recently. I did a short video on it. This is a silver certificate, okay? Just a really, really cool bill, blue seal there, series 1957B. And if you notice the corners, everything looks pretty proportionate. Okay, basically nothing to see here other than the coolness of just the silver certificate. But let me put that down for a minute. If you bring in another one here and make that comparison, now you can clearly see that this one doesn't have those same proportions. This one's been miscut or misaligned. In fact, if you were to also look at that seal there, you see how the Washington, the S in Washington where that blue seal is there, it's covered, the S. But because of this misalignment, if you go up to this other one, the S, you can see that blue seal isn't covering. So it's some of these small nuances that collectors look for. Again, I think the higher, the more pronounced it is, the more value that collectors will want to place on it, but still pretty cool nonetheless. All right. The low serial numbers for number 20 is an awesome one. So these are very simple in terms of what you're looking for. So a lot of leading zeros in the serial number. The more zeros, the better. As you can see, this one, the serial number, the first example is 9,877 because there's 4 zeros. And the second example is 5 zeros, so that bill number goes to 877. So the more of those zeros you have, the better, the leading zeros, because you want that lower serial number. And again, if you can compound that with it being a binary or a trinary, or any other cool patterns, as well as if it's a star note, those definitely elevate. But we all love those low serial numbers, okay? And then lastly here, you can't have a conversation about notes without talking about the star note. This one we tend to come across quite often. You're just looking for that star symbol at the end of the serial number. And here's an example of that. I punched this into that star note lookup. It was a regular 3.2 million run size, which is just your typical run size. But for these replacement notes, you're really aiming for that 600,000 production run or under 600,000. Okay, so that's when those star notes can really start to elevate in value, is when you can get that lower run size. Okay, all right, everyone. So one last thing to consider, I posted a link in the description for those folks curious about where people can sell these fancy bills if you should come across them. And I created a short video earlier in the year to just kind of talk about where I saw people selling them. And so if you're curious to know where some of those marketplaces are, go ahead and check that video out. It's only like 60 seconds. But just to conclude, this is really, again, just a fun hobby. If you find yourself with some spare cash in your hands, just look through these serial numbers, and you may come across something that mimics or replicates something on these pages here, and it could very well sell for some really good money. All right, so hope you guys enjoyed the content. Please like, share, subscribe, and enjoy the hunt. All right, I'll see you soon. Thanks.